Welcome to Safe and Sound. Today on our show we have Becky Montoya and Michelle Nilsson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks.
So today, I got to thinking that we're coming into the new year, and I know lots of people like to make their New Year's resolutions, right? And so I thought of what better way or time to be able to come and talk about some important things that you guys deal with on a daily basis with different people. Michelle, you're a certified health coach, correct?
I am, yes. I'm a certified health coach for Optavia. So.
Now, when you're doing that type of work that you're doing, what is it that you find what got you into this? Give me a little history.
What got me into this was I was looking to get healthier. So I got with who's my health coach now, just to see what I can do to get healthy. And I wasn't looking for a fad diet. I was looking for something for a lifelong transformation type of deal. So that's what this program that I coach for is. We teach people healthy habits and to make good choices that can be carried on through their life and their children's life and their family's life, and hopefully pass it on to everybody so we can ultimately make America healthier.
So it's not really a diet.
It's not a diet
per se. Lots of recommendations, but it's like you said, it's for long-term
correct
being healthy. And as you're doing this and you're working with different people, being a coach, I'm assuming that you work with a lot of different people that are looking for that same change.
Yep.
How difficult is it to actually, what are some of the things that you encounter that cause people to not want to make that step?
A lot of people are used to doing their bad habits. They're used to having snacks but not having healthy snacks, and it's hard for them to make that change. So one of the things that we coach is what we call stop, challenge, and choose. So when they're looking to make a decision health-wise, whether it's eating or sleeping habits or hydration habits and that kind of stuff, they stop themselves and challenge themselves to see if it is something that will ultimately get them to where they want to be. If it reflects their goal that they made at the beginning of the year, or just some random Tuesday that they made, and they challenge themselves, is this soda that I'm going to drink, is this candy bar that I'm going to eat, is it going to get me to that goal? And that's what we work through. Everybody has different challenges, so we just go through those challenges and see what works for them.
So being a coach, you working with people on a kind of more of a personal basis, texting, all that kind of?
I text my clients, I call my clients, we meet in person, we just, whatever works for them. I have a very busy lifestyle, so we try to make it as fast as possible, but make sure that they know that the support's always there. And then Optavia also has an amazing community of support, so if I happen not to be there for that specific second that they need help with, then they can jump online or call another coach or whatever, and we have an outstanding support system. So,
of course, with technology, it's kind of nice, isn't it?
It is. Makes my life a lot easier.
Yeah. And Becky, you're a professional counselor, right?
Yes.
And so, what are some of the things that go along with those New Year's resolutions that I know we've worked in the past at the schools and things, and working with kids that have, maybe they don't like themselves so well.
Yeah, so when I'm working with clients, whether it's students or people who are seeing me in private practice, usually people are coming to see me. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the beginning of the year, but they are wanting to either change their thinking about something or strategize some behaviors that can help them have more successful outcomes. So we're trying to be open to fresh starts and new ways of thinking all of the time. It's not, a lot of people put that energy in January, but it is in the mental health field something that we're constantly striving toward looking at doing.
Yeah, it's a nonstop issue, isn't it?
And you hit it right. You said something when you were asking the question about that kind of was referencing the relationship they have with themselves and how they're viewing themselves. And that's really the focus that I'm having with anyone, is how are they improving the relationship they have with themselves. If that relationship is in a really good place, then it's going to impact everything else about what they're doing. Their other relationships, their ability to forgive themselves will translate into their ability to forgive others. So that relationship with themselves is a big focus. How are they talking to themselves? Are they being nice? And we do a lot of assessment on those types of behaviors.
Right. You know, it's interesting that a few years ago, Cell One got together with me and we created a presentation that we took to the public, mainly for the schools, and it was about bullying. And as I was doing those presentations, and I got to thinking, it's like, how many of us actually bully ourselves?
Most of us do that.
Yeah.
Right, we're our own worst critic, right? So regardless of what we're trying to accomplish, we kind of become our biggest challenge ourselves. And so as I got to thinking about those kinds of things, and it's like, you know, am I picking on my own self? And I think I do. You know, it's, am I always good enough? Am I, you know, or am I the weird guy that nobody wants to listen or talk to or anything like that? But, and the thing that I've found that's interesting as I'm working with it, and a lot of kids, the type of words we use, you know, instead of different, I use the word unique. And to me, that's a much better word. It's not, because it's not demeaning or anything like that. Because, and in fact, one of the questions I ask them is what's normal? You know, really, is there truly a normal?
Right.
Normal's overrated. That's what I say.
Yeah,
Who wants to
good.
be
I like
normal?
that.
Yeah.
And so, but we're all unique because we're all different. So regardless of what it is that we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, because really we all want to be better.
Right.
And so how do we go from A to B to improving our life and those around us, right?
Yeah, one of the biggest concerns I have when people set goals is that their expectations are going to be unrealistic and that they're just creating a morality issue for them to fail at. And so it is really important to learn how to raise your inner affirming voice to quiet the inner critic. And one of the ways we measure that is to ask, you know, the things you're telling yourself, would you say those things to your closest friend? If they were having the same struggle, would you tear them apart and attack them the way you're attacking yourself? And if you wouldn't do that, then you need to re-script and find the value in the challenge that you're facing, or find the value that you didn't quite meet that goal, and re-strategize and look at how that failure can still help you, you know, move down a path towards success. So that's kind of an important piece of goal setting, is to not set the bar in a place where when you fail, you're going to consider it a total loss.
Right, and I like what you were saying about, you know, when we're dealing with other people, we're pretty good about giving advice to other people, right?
Positive advice, usually, yeah.
And why can't we do the same thing for ourselves when we're dealing with our own selves? When we look at that in the mirror and we see that person on the other side of that reflection there, you know, are we thinking positive, or are we already starting off the day with, you know, oh man, not this guy again, you know, or whatever. But yeah, it's so goal setting, be realistic, right? And not take little baby steps. So
And don't compare yourself to others. Everybody's different.
right, exactly. I like that. Don't compare. If you're going to compare, do you compare it to yourself? Am I better than I was yesterday?
Right. And that's, I've got clients that feel that they fail, and as long as they get back on the track the next day or later on that day, if you're 1% better than you were yesterday, you're better than you were yesterday.
Absolutely.
Type of deal. So,
And even if we have those setbacks,
yep, everyone's going to have
like-
setbacks.
it's just like the where they have the running the race, and the one that always wins just because he didn't come in first. If he crosses the finish line, no matter how many times he fell down, he truly is a winner, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and today might look a lot worse than yesterday, but it doesn't mean that it's lacking value. Sometimes we have things happen and we need to sit with that emotion, and that emotion, you know, love it or hate it, that emotion might mean a blizzard from Dairy Queen, and it might be the perfect fit for that day.
Yep.
And you sit with that and you work through it and you value that, that was your choice, and then you strategize if that's going to be your choice tomorrow, or how you're going to work through it. It doesn't need to be full of guilt and shame. It just needs to be something we experience. We're afraid of experiencing things, and sometimes we do just need to sit with our experiences a little bit.
Right, and and a lot of times we do have to step outside of our comfort zone a little bit and find out that, hey, you know what? It's not so bad on the other side of that line, is it?
A little bit vulnerability is okay.
Right, and you get to learn and enjoy new experiences and things like that. It's always, what are some other things that, as you're working with people that, because I like to see and help people become better. So what are some of the typical struggles that you see that people have that?
I think people really want to see changes in other people, and that's a very frustrating, that's not a goal, because you can put all the right energy out there, you can communicate at the top of your intelligence, and it may or may not impact the people around you. You may not see the changes in your spouse or in your children's behavior, but you still have control over how you respond to their behaviors. And so if they can recognize that a successful day doesn't mean that your children did everything that you expected them to do, it means that you responded to your children in a way that represented you well. And that could be whether it's your children or your coworkers or your significant other, helping them, recognize that's where their energy needs to be put, is into the things they have control and charge over. And not putting those, if they set themselves up, put all these expectations on everyone around them, they're just going to feel like they're spinning their wheels.
So if we put the focus on ourselves and get ourselves in a better place, and everything else should fall into place.
Yeah, come what may, you're going to survive. You're going to be all right.
Right. Take care of number one. And because I truly believe that you can't, if you're not in a good place yourself, there's no way you can really help anybody else. So any other last comments that you guys have as far as being able to, how do we go about creating a better environment for us to be in?
I have a last thought, and it's along the mental health spectrum. Sometimes we are doing all that we can, and we really feel we've put all that energy out there, and we're still just really struggling with anxiety and depression. And I think people need to be comfortable talking about it. The stigma needs to be removed, and if you aren't being able to find yourself in a good space, you need to be able to reach out and talk to people and get that help. And I would really encourage everyone to just kind of have a more open mind about what that might mean. And instead of telling people, well, if you would just try hard enough, because sometimes there's things going on in the chemistry of that individual that's beyond just trying hard enough. And so we have to be open to the other supports they might need.
Cool. That's awesome. And in fact, I think too often we get too rushed and we don't take the time to stop and just breathe.
Yeah, and health, it's a long-term thing. And it's not going to come overnight. So making healthy choices is definitely a thing they've got to work towards.
Right.
It's not going to happen tomorrow just because you decided to make that goal.
Dang it, I was hoping
Sorry.
for that.
It's not an overnight thing.
Well, anyway, we'll keep working at it, and appreciate you guys being here on this segment with us. Michelle, Becky, appreciate it. Thank you
Great,
very
thank
much.
you.
We'll take a quick break and be right back after this. Welcome back to Safe and Sound. For our next segment, we have Brenda Willis and Vicki Solomon, both from Nexus Coalition for Drug Prevention. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, as we talked a little bit in the earlier segment about kind of coming into the new year, setting goals, New Year's resolutions, different things like that. Well, one of the other things we wanted to kind of discuss and talk about is, because coming around the holidays, people may or may not have a tendency to get a little depressed, and they might revert to maybe using some kind of drugs, whether they're prescription medications or illicit drugs, and fall into that habit of addiction. So we kind of wanted to cover it a little bit about, because this is something that you guys work on effectively with working in the schools and the public about addiction and things like that, correct?
Absolutely. Come holiday time, there's a lot of stress going on, a lot of it financial, some of it, family, and people do tend to turn towards drugs and alcohol thinking that will make them feel better. But as we all know, that it usually causes more problem than what it does is help, you know.
So when we're dealing with addictions and things like that, what are some of the things that you guys educate and work with the kids at school mainly? What are some of the things that you try to help them understand?
You bet. So Brenda does a fantastic job in our school systems. She has a couple of programs, To Be Empowered and Empowered. And what are some of the topics that you cover in those?
We talk about self-esteem, bullying, leadership, your thoughts, confidence.
So we're working on things that help them feel better about themselves, right? And giving them something to do instead of reverting to or using drugs and prescription medications. And I mean, is it a serious thing out there with kids getting into mom and dad's or grandma and grandpa's prescriptions and just trying things? Or
Absolutely. Kids are going to be curious. That's why it's important for us to monitor what we have in our homes and make sure that we keep things locked. If we're not using it or if it's expired, make sure we get rid of it. We want to make sure that we don't have those things available.
so when we're talking about getting rid of things, as we kind of mentioned that a little bit, there's different drop places,
Yes.
police departments, and locations like that you can actually just go in and take. They can't take the liquid ones,
Right.
but anything else is a good safe place to be able to drop that off, and then it gets disposed of properly.
Absolutely. Open 24/7, 365, both of the police departments here in town. And you can just stick your unused medication in a Ziploc baggie and drop it off, or if you prefer to keep it in a container, just mark off your, confidential information on it. Drop it off.
Nice, and it's like one of those old post office box where you send your letters. I know kind of some people may not know what those things are, but
Yep, that's it.
You talked about the couple of programs, Empowered. I've kind of seen a little bit of that. That looks like an awesome program. What are some of the things that you highlight in that program that's important to get out to those kids?
I think a cool thing, she just told me a story where she'll have kids come in and they'll be really shy and quiet and they're not saying a whole lot. And by the time she's visited with them for several different sessions, they kind of come out of their shell and they open up to her and they talk about things. And sometimes, we as human natures, we like to talk about things, and some kids don't have a whole lot of people to talk to. And so I love that they use her program to use that to be able to talk about some of their challenges that they're having. And she gives them great advice with the different things that we teach in those lessons on how to help get through life as stress-free as we possibly can. Now, we all are going to have stress. We're going to have to deal with stress, and she teaches them how to deal with that.
That's
She does
awesome.
a great job.
And in fact, the name itself from the program, I don't know all the whole history of the name, but I like the name Empowered. But it's spelled, and it's spelled not exactly how the word is spelled, correct? It's
Yeah.
how-
M-P-O-W-R-D. Empowered. P-O-W-R-D.
So it's kind of like a little acronym or something, but but I do like that. And it's the kids that I've seen as you've worked with them, they seem to really enjoy being in that class and coming out and being able to feel better about themselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Brenda also works with, you want to tell them about your drug diversion?
Diversion. Yeah, we go through work with a teen court, and so we have a diversion class that we meet with for alcohol or tobacco or whatever, and we work with those kids. We do like educational classes, teach them about the brain, what it does to the brain, and educate them.
And so this teen court, that's something new that's just kind of started getting used, right?
I think teen court's been going on for a few years, but we just started working with them
Oh, nice.
about a year ago.
So they instead of having to become incarcerated or whatever, they give them something else to try to cure the behavior, fix,
Yes.
work on that behavior rather than just
And having to pay money or something like that. They
Right.
get the education.
which I'm a huge proponent of prevention begins with education. That's
bet.
kind of a saying I've said for a few
bet.
years now, and I think that is important. You know, the more education you have about something, it helps you to understand and make a good choice.
You bet.
You know, every day we're faced with choices, aren't we? And that's one of the things when I'm working with the kids myself, that, you know, everything you do is a choice. Your first choice is, am I going to get up and get dressed, or am I going to kind of fake sick being and not go to school, or whatever the case
Right.
might be, you
Right.
know? But everything we do is all about choice. Once we make that choice, now we're stuck with the consequences.
Right.
And that's where I think, and not even just kids, but adults too, have a tendency, and maybe that's where they fall into those addiction issues, is they don't want to face the consequences from their choices.
Right.
So, what are some of the other programs that you guys work with, or issues that you see out in public? I know vaping is kind of becoming a huge thing, and I don't even think that they have all of the knowledge of what kind of health risks are out there, but not only health risks, but what else?
Right. So what we are definitely finding a huge increase in vaping. Our e-cigarettes are very high this year, and the youth are putting other things inside that rather than just the nicotine. They're putting marijuana or whatever else they can come up with in it. And the thing that concerns us the most is that it is a gateway drug. You know, it's something that they start off with just vaping, and then it leads into other serious things that they can have health consequences with. I have some tips for parents. Would you like to hear some tips for
Absolutely. Let's
parents?
hear those tips for parents.
This is,
I know, being a parent myself,
I know.
I can use all the help I can
We
get.
need all the help we can get. So I think one of the main things is just get involved with your teenager, get involved with your youth.
Right.
If you start talking to your youth whenever they're younger, as they get older, it's not as awkward speaking to them. So just whenever they're young, start talking to them. Talk to them about drugs and alcohol, and let them know what your expectations are and what your beliefs are.
You know, it's interesting, sorry to interrupt there,
No,
but,
you're great.
but I was with the student council group the other day, and, you know, talking to them, and I kind of looked back and I says, you know, I can remember back when I was a teenager, how many of you guys have a good relationship that you feel comfortable talking with your parents? Because I didn't, you know, and because I remember when I was growing up, my parents were stupid. I'm sorry. I knew
didn't
everything,
talk
and
about
they
that
didn't know
stuff.
anything, right?
Right, right.
But no, I really respect and admire those kids that have and parents that have that good relationship,
Right.
that they can talk,
Right.
and that's important.
You bet. So get involved with prevention. So Nexus Coalition for Drug Prevention, contact us and make sure you're getting involved with us. Be informed about what's going on in your neighborhood. So just keep your eyes and ears open for different things going on. Keep your medicines safe and in a secure location. Be on alert and reach out for help. So if you're noticing some really strong changes in your teenager, make sure that you're talking to them and trying to find out what the problem is, because there might be some things going on that they don't feel comfortable talking about, but maybe the more you ask, maybe they'll be more comfortable in talking to you about those. Another thing is we like to be prepared to save a life, and having naloxone on hand. Anybody that has any pain medicine in their home, if you've got an emergency kit, you need to have a naloxone available as well, and we do have those for the community that we can give out. If somebody were to have an overdose, you just administer the naloxone. You can save their life until they can get to help. And then the last thing was, don't feel hopeless. Make sure that you have, that you know that you have the power to influence your kids. Try to spend at least 15 minutes a day with them. I know sometimes it gets very difficult and busy, but spend time with your kids and get to know them and their friends, and keep that communication ongoing.
You know, and I like that, keeping that communication open, and in fact, even using technology. I know with my own kids, I've got some that are married now and off to college and different things, but yet they still keep in touch with Maybe not so much me, but my wife. But,
Right.
but at least there's that, we kind of know what's going on, and it's nice to know that they're being safe, because, I mean, as a parent, we want to protect, and, you know, but when they move out, it's kind of a little harder to do that now.
Yeah.
So as we look at life in general and different things, how can we help each other? And you know, and I like the one tip in there that talked about keeping aware of what's going on in your community, you know, in your neighborhood specifically. If you see something going on, you know, I know when I talk with people and working with telling them, you know, well, they go, because the question I get is, well, when do you know when it's okay to call 911? You know, if we would rather be there 100% of the time and never be needed than get to the point of, oh crap, I wish we would have called them.
Too late.
And now we have to wait for them to show up, because we don't get there. We're not teleporters. We don't have that kind of technology yet. Maybe someday, but not now. It takes us time to get there. You know, so, and like having that naloxone there, if you do have those type of opiates in the house, that maybe it's not a bad idea to have something around, because even a small child can get into that, and they didn't know, and you know, it could mean a difference between being able to stay alive or not.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I appreciate being able to have you on the show with us today and to talk about these important subjects, and you guys recently got funded, so things can keep moving forward, and you can continue going out into the public and providing that education, and I think that's important. So thank you very much, Vicki and Brenda, for being on the show with us.
You bet. Thanks. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. And thank you for watching Safe and Sound, and we'll see you next month.